had it figured out, till I seen the truth and I was filled with doubt. Hard to tell what's genuine, what's compassion. With these spells of rhetoric, expel this magic. Raised to be passive, kept me afraid to take action. Imbalanced, enslaved, kept me in chains. Taught to never fight back. Distractions keeps me sidetracked, keeps my mind trapped. The truth is immutable, indisputable. I pour my heart out, even though it's uncomfortable. The time to take charge and start the spark is right now. Guided in the dark with the stars out.
You're listening to Addiction Free Radio here on 90.1 KPFT Houston. This is Derrick Broze with Addiction Free Radio, and that was from our friends Truth Universal. Some great people that I met at the Free Your Mind conference back in April in Philadelphia. And today we got a great show. We're going to talk about the intersections of depression and addiction. This is, of course, a show that we discuss drug addiction, all kinds of addiction, sex addiction, whatever it may be, whatever ails you, really. But, you know, all kinds of things, addictive behavior, depressive behavior, and things related to that. John and I both have dealt with drug addiction in the past, and we decided it was time for us as activists, as anarchists, as freedom-minded people and concerned with our brothers and sisters to do something about it, to give them a voice and a space to talk about their issues. And we hope that's what this is. This is episode number 4 of Addiction Free Radio. I'm going to go to a quick song, and then when I come back, I'll be here with John, and we will get this show going. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be right back on 90.1 KPFT Houston.
Up if you happen to follow and want a song talking about popping the bottles, watches and models. I'm not gonna bother. I got us a problem, can't stop it tomorrow. Put your hands up if you happen to follow and want a song talking about popping the bottles, watches and models. I'm not gonna bother. I got us a problem, can't stop it tomorrow. Hello, my name is The Truth. Solely throwing a grenade in the booth. See me delete these beats out. I'm a white rapper like I TP'd your house. Put your hands up if you happen to follow and want a song talking about popping the bottles, watches and models. I'm not gonna bother. Got us a problem, can't stop it tomorrow. Change to market Obama. Change you can believe will offer you nada. The same global elite are dropping them dollars. Republic of a puppet, the heart of the monster. Uganda and Gaza are products of anonymous economists and politicians calling the shots. Would you last if it happened tomorrow? Running down your block from an all-black chopper. Zoom like you hopped in a Mazda. Top chopped off, spotlight shined on you. Drive faster, they're starting to catch up. Get a megaphone, start yelling your ass off. This ain't Germany, if you came to murder me, I'm going to the top, so you better aim vertically. Okay, certainly, this ain't brain surgery. Just change the teleprompter like I'm Ron Burgundy. Put your hands up if you happen to follow and want a song talking about popping the bottles, watches and models. I'm not gonna bother. Got us a problem, can't stop it tomorrow. Eric, put your hands up if you happen to follow and want a song talking about popping the bottles, watches and models. I'm not gonna bother. Got us a problem, can't stop it tomorrow.
That's what I call fear-mongering.
Pessimism, repetition, communism, terrorism. Pessimism, repetition, communism, terrorism. Pessimism, repetition, communism, terrorism. Pessimism, repetition, pessimism, repetition, communism, terrorism. Pessimism, repetition, communism, terrorism. Historical reminiscence, cause this is repetitious. It's the new world order in the 60th edition. The mission isn't different if it's Hitler to the Clintons or the politicians sitting in trilateral commissions. The president's position has never been our decision. It's been given with permission in a one-party system. You think there's competition in between the opposition, but from Bush to Obama there really isn't a difference. They wish to kill victims of the police state system, so I spit out bars to free us from the prison. I can sound pop to bait you in, then spit real talk like a bait and switch. Take those kids who never gave two shits and make them give one just based on this. Listen, new Rockefeller, old ambitions. They're all terrorists by their own definitions. Give a little kid a missile in the Middle East, tell them it's a competition to see who can live the least. They own television, that's why they don't mention the fact that Tower 7 was controlled demolition. Those in suspicion must be code for magicians, cause those sons of bitches were at home in their kitchens, funding the mission of the opposition, giving them guns and getting shot by our own ammunition. Turn off your television because they won't mention the fact that Tower 7 was controlled demolition. You can call me crazy, but go look it up on on 9/11. Tower 7 fell without getting touched. Jay Soul.
9/11 was done by people in our own government and our own banking system to perpetuate the fear of the American people into subordinating themselves to anything the government wants them to do. That's what it's about, and to create this war, this endless war on terror.
Well, that was Jay Bonasoli, originally from Dallas, Texas. Now I'm not sure where he is. I think he went to Tennessee, then maybe California, with his song Tower 7. As I said, this is, on the show before this is the upcoming 15th anniversary of 9/11, so I just want to throw that out there. And whether or not you agree with those lyrics or not, I hope you will enjoy our show about addiction. I think I've got John on the line. John, you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Derek.
Cool, brother. All right, both of us are here now. We're here for episode 4 of Addiction Free Radio. Just to remind you guys, we do this show every other couple of Mondays or so, depending on our schedules, as we're both dealing with a lot right now. So we try to be here as often as we can to bring this, platform for you. And we're thankful to KPFT for allowing us to talk about important issues like addiction and getting this message out there. And I do want to remind you guys that this is a totally free call-in show. So at any point, if you have something to express or you just need to get something off your chest, 713-526-8737, 713-526-8737, and you can call in and talk to us. And we've got a couple stories that we're going to get into today, a couple different topics, but the main thing we're looking at in general that we're going to focus on, I think, for the majority of the show is going to be this intersection of depression and addiction and how those two things play together. But first, before we get into that, I wanted to talk a little bit about Kratom, John.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a big topic this week.
So go ahead and fill everybody in a little bit. If I've read a bit here, but if maybe you know a little bit more than I do. I know what Kratom is, but what happened and what's the deal? Why is this now, another plant, that medicine going to be at risk?
Well, I really only know the basic gist of it because, I've had all my stuff going on. But basically, I'm not sure if it's the FDA or the DEA.
I think it's the DEA.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, yeah, they've decided to ban this natural herb that has been used by millions of people all over the country and probably all over the world for various different things, whether it be pain or anxiety or even coming off of like pain pills and opiates and things like that. People have been using it as like a natural alternative to things like Suboxone, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's been very useful for a lot of people, and I'm not really sure what their reasoning is. I'm guessing that it's unregulated and that's scary and that it needs to be regulated or something. I'm not sure if you saw any further details on that.
I'm going to look it up real quick, but I do want to just say, kind of back up what you were saying there, that I've known personally people who personally have used Kratom to kind of help them off of opiates and other heavier drugs, and it's not a destructive thing, and sometimes it takes a little bit longer to wean themselves off of something, but it's not like taking another opiate. It's it's a plant product, and it is used for those who are trying to get off of opiates. But at the end of this month, it says the Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA, is now reclassifying the drug from a drug of concern to a Schedule I substance, which means it's now equal to LSD, cannabis, and heroin, which, of course, the government says are of no medical value and have a high addictive potential. So it's just crazy that this is another attack on, I think, the freedom of people to change their state of consciousness and to alter their mind, really. But that's not even, this thing doesn't even do that. But in general, just to have cognitive liberty, to have the freedom to use a medicine, whatever you say. But instead, you've got these bureaucracies kind of stepping in there. And I think the big issue that I want to focus on in relation to our show and stuff is that this is something that people maybe who are trying to get off of drugs that have contributed to their depression might go towards using, so they can, wean themselves from that. You know what I mean? Like getting off of drugs, especially if you've been using or partying a lot, it can lead to depression a lot, and it can be difficult to transition. So sometimes having something like Kratom or even cannabis or some other, I don't want to say, switching your addiction to something new, but giving you something that isn't just a pharmaceutical product to allow you to kind of wean yourself from that can be a helpful tool.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were talking about that last week, like even with the synthetic options that people have with the guest that we had on, where he was talking about, how people are using all these synthetic.
Yeah, you're talking about the guy from The Business of Recovery, correct? Greg?
Yeah, exactly. And he was talking about like Suboxone and methadone and things like that, and how, they do legitimately help people because they have this whole like where they're getting weaned off of it. But at the same time, these synthetic chemicals are really dangerous for people, whereas kratom is actually just a natural herb, and it's much safer than these things that are legal that they're actually dishing out to people on like state money a lot of times.
Absolutely, John. I think we got a call in. Just 1 second. Do we have a call in on the air? Okay, hold on 1 second. I don't know who this is, John, but I think that there may be somebody on the line, so I want to just bring them on real quick and see if we got a question, all right?
Sure.
Yes, hello, who are we speaking with?
Michael, down in Adelaide, South Australia.
Could you repeat your name, please?
Michael, Kildare, in Adelaide, South
all right, well, tell
Australia.
us a little bit of what would you like to talk about today, sir?
Hey, Derek, you brought up about addiction and all that, and depression. And I just wanted to say it's been 10 years since I've gotten off of meth, and it's still a battle, and the depression's all part of it, It's just like every day waking up and,
I appreciate it. Now, I didn't recognize who this was at first, but this is our friend Michael calling from Australia, correct?
You still there?
Yeah, can you hear me, Michael?
Yeah, I can hear you, mate.
Okay, I was saying I recognize who this is now, that this is our friend from Australia.
Yeah, it's the one.
So,
I'm managed to tune in.
I appreciate you listening in, and I appreciate you calling in. I really do. And so you were just saying that you've been dealing with, it's been 10 years since you quit meth and your meth addiction, but that there's still a lot of depression and a lot of issues that come up. So you're speaking directly to the things that we were going to be talking about here in a moment. So I guess, if you don't mind, if you want to share more of your experience, we're happy to listen, and John and I can offer some advice back if you have anything else you'd like to share specifically.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, that's cool with me, man.
All right, go ahead and just tell us what you'd like to tell us about your journey and your, since you said 10 years, what's changed in your life in 10 years, and why do you feel like there's still some source of depression in your life?
Well, 10 years ago, I was working 3 jobs, wife, 3 kids. Didn't have any time for myself or anything like that, and was totally exhausted. Then one day some guy turned up at work with some meth and said, try this, it will help you get through the day. And I did, but the bastard of a thing with this stuff is that it makes you feel like a god. You can do any type of work and you just fly through it, and before you know it, you're hooked on the stuff. You're looking for it all the time. And you're feeling like you can't work without this stuff helping you out. And before I knew it, I'd nearly lost my wife, my kids, my house, got myself off it. But the problem is that high you get from it, you miss it, if you know what I mean. You know what it did for you, you know how it helped you, and at the same time, you know the drawbacks with it. And, you constantly battling good and evil type. You understand what I mean? It's sort of
I think I know what you're saying. I mean, it sounds like you're saying that, the chasing of the high, the chasing of that feeling that you like you said, for you, meth was something that made you, and for a lot of people, it gives you a lot of energy. It makes you feel extremely powerful and in a lot of different ways, but it's also, it's just, it's something that's external, and it just destroys you physically. It can destroy your mind. But even after you get off it, when somebody's used to partying or experiencing those type of highs, it can be very difficult to come back from that and to let go of chasing that. And this is where we talk about that it's not just about drugs, really, that some people have, what some refer to as cross addiction, where maybe you stop using the drugs, but you eat a lot of crappy food to replace that high just by getting, the chemicals released in your brain, or you go gambling or sex or whatever it may be. And that, I think, is a result of not dealing with the deeper depression that leads a lot of people to try drugs in the first place.
Yes, that's very true, actually. I haven't touched meth since I got off it, but I do have a tendency to have a few too many drinks or something like that, and it's sort of like I've got to catch myself. I've got to mentally stop myself from going too far, because I'm starting to chase that feeling again. And the depression side of it, well, with work, you never seem to get anywhere. You've got the mortgage, you've got the children, and you're constantly worrying about that. And then you have the situation where we're all in at the moment with this clown show which is running our governments, and you're starting to see, as a little person, you're like a pawn on a chessboard, and you've got no control over your life, and it feels like this huge weight is pushing down on you all the time. So then you start looking for something to shrug that off, and that's when the drugs and the alcohol and all that gets real tempting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean, man. I want to give John a chance to say something to you. John, I don't know if you were able to catch that. You are breaking up a little bit, Michael, but John, did you hear some of what he was saying? Did you want to respond a little bit? He's talking about depression and, just being able to escape that, and also kind of facing with the reality of our situation, in the world today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that he's totally right about how so many times these pressures in our life, whether it be work or family or relationships, they weigh down on us to the point where we just need an escape. And when we don't have, the ability to cope with these, with talking through with people, or if we don't have strong connections in our lives, then it's real easy to slip down a path of addiction and self-destruction. And, I think absolutely with, where he was saying that work pressures and even staying up and taking uppers is definitely a big thing for a lot of people who are overworked, whether it be truck drivers or people in the tech industry. It affects everybody.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you calling in, Mike. I want to let you go for now, and but thank you for calling in and sharing your story. Well, I think we may have lost him there, but thank you again, if you can hear this, Michael, for calling him. He called all the way from Australia. That's pretty awesome. So we always do appreciate those call-ins. Again, 713-526-8737. We're going to go to a quick song and then come back, and we're going to cover two different articles that deal with depression and addiction. And of course, we're taking the calls. If you've got anything to say about Kratom, if that you have experience with that, or want to talk about your situation, we are willing and happy to talk with you. This next track I'm going to play here is from something I've been jamming. It is from DubFX, who just put out a new release this past week or so. And it's called Fake Paradise. I very much enjoy it. So check this out. We'll be right back on Addiction Free Radio in just a few moments.
paradise, a fake paradise, yeah. Walking through this fake paradise. Let me in the middle room as I jump in here. I gotta go soon, so I make it clear. Coming up to the final frontier. Babylon pushing on all of that fear. So let's get an order what we got here. Everybody gather round, cause I got an idea. And maybe both and nobody's clear. The zombie nation is approaching here. Hey, I'm walking through this fake paradise, a fake paradise, yeah. Walking through this fake paradise, a fake paradise. Walking through this fake paradise, a fake paradise, yeah. Walking through this fake paradise, a fake paradise. As I'm walking through, everything that I say and everything I do, it's got to be real and got to be true. So I open up my soul and give it to you with a little bit of vibe that I make for you. It's fine the way that we do. We got a bass line that will make you move. Come on, it's time that you join our crew. Hey, I will always hear what you say. I will never stand in your way. I can always tell if you're wise. I can see your soul with my third eye, right? I don't need to hear what they say. I'm not in those games that they play. I can always see through the lies. I can see the world through my third eye, right? Sometimes I'm feeling so tempted to let myself be misdirected by all the lies of what them said. No, I just listen to my soul. I listen to my soul. Paradise, a fake paradise, yeah. Walking through this fake paradise, a fake paradise. Walking through this fake paradise, a fake paradise, yeah. Walking through this fake paradise, a fake paradise. I will always hear what you say. I will never stand in your way. I can always tell if you're wise. I can see your soul with my third eye, right? I don't need to hear what they say. I'm not in those games that they play. I can always see through the lies. I can see the world through my third eye, right?
I love that jam. That is WFX and Fake Paradise. My name is Derrick Broze, and I'm here with John Vibes. How you doing, John?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. You like that? Were you able to hear that?
Oh, yeah, no, that was a good one.
Dude, yeah, I don't know if you've checked out that album yet, but it's pretty awesome. Nice mix of styles and some conscious, positive lyrics for those who are into that. Check that out. Now, we had a call in from Michael from Australia. Thanks again for that, talking about, his struggle with quitting meth 10 years ago and just, how he's processing that and how depression plays into that. And as we've been saying, today's episode is going to focus on the intersection of depression and addiction, and especially we're going to go over these two articles. One of them, John, well, I think both of these actually, John, you sent me a while back. This one is from Thump, which is Vice's music channel, kind of electronic music channel. And they write articles and videos and such. This one is called "Partying with Depression Turned My Life Upside Down." And I'm just going to read a little bit of this to you guys. And then, John, we can go into it and you can share your thoughts. But it says, every club goer has experienced a crappy feeling or two the day after a big party. Sometimes it can just be a bad mood, an even worse hangover, while other times it's a hollow feeling of sadness. Some people refer to this feeling as post-party depression. Well-meaning friends might tell you that this feeling goes away eventually. Others will just tell you to simply not party and avoid the come down altogether. But what happens when this feeling of sadness lingers? What do you do when you can't even talk about how you're feeling because there's no obvious reason for it? What's it like when you're clinically depressed and the club is your only regular attempt at an escape? And you could replace club with rave, with any scene that you're used to. Depression is pretty common. An estimated 350 million people suffer from it around the world. In clinical terms, this person says they had dysthymia, excuse me if I'm saying that wrong, dysthymia, which according to Wikipedia is a mood disorder consisting of the same cognitive and physical problems as in depression, with less severe but longer lasting symptoms. So the symptoms of this are less intense than with classic depression, which is often experienced in episodes. Some suffer with it for years before they seek help and get a diagnosis. I was one of those people. The symptoms of my own condition were easily attributed to various aspects of my personality. I was overly sensitive, pessimistic, and negative. These feelings first appeared during my childhood. Some kids went about their lives with ease, but that was quickly lost on me. Just a little bit more here. Friends were never much help, and the usual platitudes, like everyone feels this way sometimes, would often make me feel worse inside. I started to put an insane amount of pressure on myself to finally get it together. In college, even good grades couldn't satisfy my inner critic. I eventually turned to alcohol as an escape, but drinking often led to aggression, emotional breakdowns, or crying for hours on end. The next day would be centered around the shame of the previous night's behavior, which in turn would propagate a new cycle of self-hatred and criticism. I was studying in a small town at first, but eventually transferred to Berlin. And she goes on and on to describe her story, or his story, excuse me, and just the back and forth with depression. I'm going to post this in the Facebook event for today's episode, and this will be in the show notes once we make an archive. But it's an interesting read there. John, what's been your experience with that, what they refer to as post-party depression?
Well, I got a ton of experience with that because of the fact that I, threw raves for about 10 years with my company, Good Vibes Promotions. And, it's just, I experienced it myself, but I also saw it in so many of the people who would come out and become regulars in the scene. So, basically, people would go out and they would have a miserable life, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And, they would find this place where there was acceptance and where people were, getting along and where there was just this different atmosphere where there is a heightened connection among people. And there is also this drug element involved. So if people want to stay there in that moment, in that high, in that environment, so to speak. And it's not just the drugs, it's the environment also, but when you mix the drugs in there, that's when things do get dangerous. And I don't want to sound like a square. I mean, I love drugs. I think they're great. But they can be misused, and they are powerful tools that, they can have dangerous outcomes if they're not used responsibly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think a lot of it has to do with this escape, people trying to escape. And when you want to stay in the escape, that's this whole trying to keep the party going forever kind of deal that this article is describing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to just kind of add to that, as far as they're talking about being in a cycle of self-criticism and self-hatred, I can definitely, relate to that because I've talked about this before on the show, but a lot of my issues, I didn't start using drugs or partying or doing anything till after high school. I was getting in a lot of trouble and really depressed and like cutting myself and tried to kill myself several times, like before any of those drugs or anything ever even came along, you know. And a lot of people in my, you know, high school and such thought I was just kind of like a crazy kid or whatever, but they thought it was related to drugs, but it wasn't. It was the depression and the dissatisfaction with myself and dislike of myself was already there, you know, from the beginning. And I clearly remember, and it really kind of, sometimes it really just bums me out, man, to be honest, like just to realize like, man, I used to just be so hard on myself and so just mean to myself. And, you know, we talk about conscious language and how the way we use our words, and we're programming ourselves. We're always, being programmed by some external force, and, we're being programmed by our own voice and our own thinking. And when your thinking is constantly negative and your self-talk and your self, worth is low, like when, I would make a simple mistake and just be like, God, you're so stupid. Like, why did you do that? And just be so, kind of embarrassed or just worried what other people were thinking, and just went through a lot of this really insecure stuff that, again, it was a cycle in and out. And then eventually, I got into ecstasy, and just that made me feel amazing. So yeah, I went through a heavy period of just doing it all the time, and, did that for 6 to 8 months. And then after that, once I finally stopped, and I'm talking about, taking a couple of pills a night, 3 or 4 times a week. And then after that, needing a whole another 6 months just to recover, to feel like I could express emotion again. Because I remember, then as a result of the drug use, then it was like I was in a really sort of, this apathetic state, that happens once your serotonin's been, ran down, and that just contributed even further. So I definitely understand that cycle of depression and unhappiness with yourself. And what are the answers to that? It's going to be different for each of us, guys. I think that's one thing to remember, and that's one of the things we're trying to talk about here, is that it doesn't always necessarily, your help's not always going to come in a 12-step AA meeting. It might come in some other situation. It might just come through a powerful conversation that you have with a friend that makes you finally realize you are worthy and that you matter, and that you don't need to, chase drugs for a high, that you could choose to ingest whatever you want as a free person and do it in a safe way and in a healthy way and in a fun way, but without doing it in the sense of trying to just escape or forget, because I can say definitely, even now it's interesting. You ever have this happen, something like this, John, where and it's a beautiful experience, because it's like you're going from, you recognizing how far you've come when you realize you've changed your actions in a certain way. And for me, that comes with, say life is throwing me some curveballs and I'm kind of stressed out. I'll have a moment where I think man, I wish I could just be back at that time where I could just go get trashed and I would feel better. I would go buy a bottle of vodka, or I would just take a bunch of Xanax or do a bunch of cocaine or whatever it was that was around, do a bunch of it and try to just not think about whatever I didn't want to think about. And now it's those thoughts, I'm not going to lie, thoughts like that will pop in my head. Man, I wish I could go back to this, but it's not real. It's not something I actually mean. It's just that moment of I wish I could escape, I guess. I wish I didn't have to feel this. But ultimately now I know that feeling things and facing them is much better, because you go get blitzed out of your mind and the problems are still there. And then usually they end up getting worse, and drugs just make things sometimes overly dramatic. And, when you have heavy issues, it's best to just face them head on.
Yeah, and it's really easy to kind of be an autopilot, when we go throughout our day and we experience all this stress and everything like that. It's really easy to just kind of shut off and just go through the motions and allow your subconscious to control you. But, like you said, you really got to be conscious and, step back, beyond yourself. And when you see yourself start slipping into those feelings and things like that, you got to just allow yourself to experience that and understand that if you go and run away from it, you're going to make things worse. And I think a lot of the challenge is really being able to have that dialogue with yourself and training yourself to have that dialogue with yourself when these situations arise.
Absolutely. It's got to become a habitual thing, a new learned behavior, because we've spent so much time in different ways picking up bad behaviors. And I have friends who I know who are in their 20s and their 30s and are still just trying to relearn and unlearn, certain things, but to relearn like how to communicate, because in their family, they didn't communicate. They were always told that, you had to put on a smile and pretend like everything was great. Or, they learned to communicate by screaming and, yelling and slamming doors and throwing things or whatever way, just different forms of unhealthy communication. And then as they grow up and become adults, they have issues and things with their relationships with their friends, and maybe they don't properly know how to communicate those things. And those emotions, they don't go anywhere. They sit there, and that can fester. And oftentimes those undealt with feelings and emotions and situations are what lead us to go try to just get blitzed out of our mind, to do drugs to escape, and to do another thing is, I know that there's plenty of people who use sex in an addictive way or as an escape. As we're talking about escaping from depression or just unhealthy feelings, it's easy with anything that just makes you feel good in that moment to just be like, okay, I'm going to go sleep with this person. And maybe you wake up later regretting it or just feeling like it was, unnecessary or whatever the case may be. And that, there's so many different behaviors. It's not just taking drugs that people use.
You could go and do yoga 12 times a day, and it'd be an unhealthy situation.
Ultimately, I agree, because despite whatever health benefits you may be getting from yoga, if you're doing it as a form of escapism and just to not process your emotions and just well, you know what, I'm upset, I don't want to face this though, I'd rather just put it, and a lot of times that is good. Meditation, yoga, sometimes you need to redirect that energy, right? To process it, to do it in a healthy way. But if you never release it, and if you never communicate those feelings to yourself or take action, then it is just another form of escapism, because sometimes you're in, your emotions are flaring. It's not best to just react to that. You want to be able to process those things and whatever problems you're dealing with, so that you can do it in a healthier way, not just blow up on somebody, not just, take things the wrong way, but being open to all situations and open to your healing. So that's kind of how I feel about this post-party depression. I had actually never really thought about it in that sense, but I definitely can say when you start to use a lot of drugs and you start to mess with your brain's and your body's chemistry, you're going to go through a wave of emotions up and down and all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when it's a sustained, habitual situation where it's like an every weekend kind of deal. And, because you're not giving your body or your brain any kind of time to recharge and stuff like that. And you're just constantly inundating yourself with it. So for example, if you're sick with something, and you're taking a particular medicine and you want that medicine to saturate in your body, you got to keep on taking it. You know what I mean? So in that opposite effect, if you have a substance that may have detrimental impacts on you, if you're taking it over a sustained amount of time, then it has time to basically accumulate in your body and, create those types of issues. Now, I'm not trying to fearmonger or scare anybody saying that, if you do drugs, your brain's going to fall out of your head or anything. But we can't deny that these substances that we take have an effect on us.
Absolutely. That's definitely important. We should have fun. We should be free people, but we definitely don't deny whenever you realize that a substance, a drug, or an action, again, not even just drugs, whatever it is that you're doing as a form of escapism, as a form of relief, as a form of denial, whatever it is that you're doing in an unhealthy way, you got to recognize those things physically, mentally, spiritually. You got to be open to it. And that's often the hardest thing, because we can put ourselves in denial and tell ourselves that the actions we're taking, even if they're self-destructive, especially if they're self-destructive, we're able to kind of block them out and tell ourselves that, that we're okay, I'm going to go to another song now, John. This is going to be another one from Dub FX. I'm just jamming him lately, so I'm going to just throw this on there. And then when we come back, we're going to cover another article that was about rapper Kendrick Lamar, because we're all about music, drugs, addiction. It all goes together. So we're going to talk about Kendrick Lamar and his depression and suicide, and hopefully take some more of your calls. 713-526-8737. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in today. I think we've got some new listeners this afternoon, and that's much appreciated. You can always find the archives of this on kpft.org/archives immediately after the show's over, and on the youtube.com/conscious resistance YouTube channel, where I post the links in a couple of days. So check that out. We're going to go to So Are You from DubFX. We'll be right back in just a moment. This is Addiction Free Radio on 90.1 KPFT Houston.
If we only ever knew we're trapped in our minds and trapped in the zoo. Ooh, if we only ever knew. Here we come with the roughest and toughest high grades. And Emilia pump it to our lungs and veins. Never gonna stop to the end of our days. Setting up sound systems with bass for your face. Console shooting out frequency, full of loops and beats and symmetry. The room's getting filled with chemistry. Oh, let it be, do you see all the energy? So we keep on moving at a rock steady pace. Know you're gonna want it if you have a little taste. Loosen up your neck and your back and your waist. Feel yourself lift as you float into space. Twisting your mind so quickly, sonically and telepathically. We're kissing goodbye to the gravity. Oh, let it be, do you feel all the energy? I said, ooh, if I only ever knew I'm trapped in my mind and trapped in the zoo. Ooh, if I only ever knew. So you, ooh, if we only ever knew we're trapped in our minds and trapped in the zoo. Ooh, if we only ever knew. Western youth be in trouble cause them not playing rough. So I try to start a fire with the rhythm that's tough. We need a revolution but we can't get enough of YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and that stuff. We need more social activity, physically in this reality. There's too much digital calamity. Oh, let us be what we need for prosperity. But we keep on using up more than we need. And we build on slavery, power and greed. And I weep every time that I watch TV. So I focus on my Jing and my Shen and my Chi. Soaking up pure infinity. Kundalini Shakti for energy. We're kissing goodbye to negativity. Oh, let it be just free your mentality. I said, ooh, if I only ever knew I'm trapped in my mind and trapped in the zoo. Ooh, if I only ever knew. So are you. Ooh, if we only ever knew we're trapped in our minds and trapped in the zoo. Ooh, if we only ever knew. Oh. We are all chosen. And we are all golden. We are all chosen. We are all golden, right? We are all chosen. We are all golden, alright. We are all chosen, you know. We are all golden. One more time. We are all chosen.
WFX, So Are You. Welcome back to Addiction Free Radio on 90.1 KPFT Houston. My name is Derrick Broze, and I'm here with John Vibes. What you think about that one, John? Oh, wait, hold on. I think I accidentally muted John. Give me a second. John, you there with us? Oh,
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, cool. What do you think about that jam?
All right, cool.
Sweet. All right, well, you want to get into this Kendrick Lamar article?
Yeah, sure.
Dude, let's talk about this for a second. Let me just kind of segue for a moment, because I love all kinds of music, dude, and I don't really get Kendrick Lamar. I don't really, like, just for those who are listening who are like, wait, why are they talking about music? We're supposed to talk about addiction. we're talking about everything here. But I don't really understand like why people talk about him like he's like the best rapper in a long time. But I mean, I'm thinking it may be just because I'm ignorant. I've listened to some of his music, and some of it I've appreciated. Some of it really has not been my style, or whatever. I also know that he did like that. He did like the police brutality like sort of performance before, didn't he? He had something to do with like that. I feel like he's done some admirable things, but as far as like on the musical side of things, why people are so hyped about him, I don't necessarily get that. But if I remember, you're a fan of him, right?
You're just not hearing the right stuff, I think.
Maybe so. That's what I'm saying. Maybe I just haven't heard it yet. What's the deal with him, though? Is he just like
Well, I mean, he's like his older stuff is super revolutionary.
Okay.
Like, I mean, he's talked about like, you know, the Illuminati, fluoride, like stuff like that in his old stuff.
Okay.
Now his new stuff is it's like on the same tip, but not face. So like it's like rebellious, but it's not on that super intellectual tip anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably just because he can't get away with all that, you know, with the labels he's on and everything. But at the same time, like you said, I mean, he's still putting police brutality in the spotlight. And basically, like, his whole deal is he isn't about, like, rapping about violence and drugs and stuff like that. Like, he's about being positive and stuff like that. Although it's really raw and, you know, brutal stuff sometimes because he's talking about city life and the things that you experience. But at the same time, he's looking at it, like, through the eyes of a good kid, in his words. So that's kind of his whole gimmick, I guess you could say.
Okay, cool. I was just curious. Yeah, just for a moment to, you know, figure that one out. But yeah, definitely you got to send me some tracks, and maybe I am checking out the wrong stuff. I haven't really looked deeply. I just like listened to a couple where I heard some people, and everyone I've seen who listens to his music is really, you know, into him. Like, you know, they really appreciate him. So yeah. But this article we got here is from, let me see, this is from, it doesn't say, but sometime recently. It's talking about his 2015 album. It's talking about that he won 5 Grammys in 2016. And he's referencing one of his songs off his most recent album. And he says, I've pulled that song not only from previous experiences, but I think my whole life. I think everything is drawn out of that. Even situations from one of his previous songs. He said, nothing was as vulnerable as that record, so it's even pulling from those experiences of coming up in Compton. It's pulling from the experience of going through change and accepting change. That's the hardest thing for man, accepting change. He says, 3 of my homeboys one summer were murdered, close ones too, not just somebody I hear about, these people I grew up with. It's all psychologically, it messes your brain up. If you live in this life, you know what I'm saying, but you still have to face the realities of this. I gotta get off the tour bus and go to these funerals, talk to my mom, talk to their family, the kids that lost their lives. And yeah, so that's just an interesting perspective that maybe some people don't necessarily think of whenever they listen to music, and just how, because for some people, rapping about a lifestyle is just part of their facade and kind of part of their persona that they're creating through music, right? It's not necessarily even something they live. But for a lot of people, it can be something, a reality that they're rapping about, they're singing about to escape, you know, and as a form of therapy, you know, and that can sometimes include selling drugs or being addicted to drugs or being surrounded by drug addicts, for one, which also is traumatizing in its own. Growing up in a community and communities of people who are addicted to crack and other drugs, and seeing that sometimes, you know, you work against your own community to try to get money to get yourself out of that situation. It can be very damaging and difficult to process that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing I found interesting as well is the fact that, you know, here is somebody who seemingly at this point, from the outside looking in, you know, he has fame and money and all these things, and he still battles with depression and loneliness and all this. So, you know, it's not just a matter of financial success or anything like that, but you know, it goes really deep in your psyche this issue of depression. I personally don't believe in the the psychological theory of depression where there's some chemical imbalance. I do believe that depression comes from our external world, but I think a lot of times it's way deeper than just superficial things like finances and things like that. Even though being broke will obviously depress you.
Yeah, absolutely. There are deeper causes, and I think that's kind of been a theme of today, is to look at when you're depressed or when you're dealing with drugs, you're dealing with some form of escapism or something that's kind of self-medication, is trying to get past that. And maybe it doesn't start out the same with everybody. Maybe you just experimenting and you end up getting addicted quicker and worse than you ever thought you would or ever thought it was possible. But for a lot of us, it comes from a place of trying to heal in an improper way, trying to bandage situations that just need to be dealt with and need to be discussed, or trying to escape from certain situations, or trying to over-medicate, or just, put them out of existence. It's a difficult process, and it's not a healthy thing, and this is what leads to trauma. This is what leads to pain. This is what leads to people acting out of ways. And I think on a deeper, maybe a more philosophical angle of this issue, this is where John and I often say that, it's humanity's individual pains and hurts and insecurities and such that are not being dealt with and processed, which is what is creating the world that we see it in the state that it is now. And only by us choosing to take those actions and to do those things are we, and healing from our traumas and not seeking to escape from them using drugs and other negative self-limiting behaviors or self-destructive behaviors, but actually facing those actions that we're really going to create beautiful, positive change in this world. What do you?
Absolutely, man.
I was going to say, John. What else do you think, as far as, what kind of effect do you think that having Kendrick Lamar speaking openly about that can have? Obviously, there's a lot of people who look up to various celebrities and musicians, and whenever they speak on a topic, it brings it to the forefront of the mainstream, middle America, so to speak. So maybe one of these kids that listens to Kendrick Lamar hears him talking about it and being open about it, and they feel more open. I know that both of us have experienced that. Whenever we talk openly about our struggles, people resonate with it, they appreciate it, and they feel like they can speak more openly about their own struggles and their own pains.
Yeah, that's really what hit me about it, and that's the reason why I decided to share it with you. Because of the fact that, this guy is kind of on top of the world right now. And, there are a lot of people that look up to him. And for him to be able to kind of this perspective and, show people that not only are they not alone, but somebody who they have a great deal of respect for so goes through thing. And I think that goes to a lot of what we were talking about earlier with that, the self-hate and all of the, the constantly being down on yourself. A lot of people are down on themselves because they're depressed, because they're down on themselves. So
it's a cycle.
If they see that somebody who they respect and look to, who they think really has their stuff together, if they see that person experiences the same thing, then maybe they can kind of give themselves a break a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, we're just about out of time, everyone. I really do appreciate everyone who's listening. I know for certain we've got a couple new listeners, and people seem to be enjoying the show. So it looks like we might be able to keep up our pattern of doing this every other week or so. I'll be coming back from New York next Monday, so I won't be in town to do a show. But the following week, if our schedules line up, you guys can expect to hear us here on 90.1 KPFT Houston on the HD3 dial. And as I said earlier, the archives will be on KPFT's website immediately following the end of our show, and they will be on the Conscious Resistance YouTube channel by Wednesday or so. So please do stay tuned for more shows on KPFT, and if you want to find out more about what we do, you can find me and John on Facebook. This is Addiction Free Radio. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to close up with a song from some performers that I met recently, now known as True Universal. This is called Fault. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you, John.
sound right? It don't add up. Have I lost my grip? Running in circles, trying to follow my bliss. How wrong I was. Engulfed in ignorance, blinded by love. Intentions were pure, intentions are meaningless. Intention is defeated in obedience, misguided. Loyalty to the belief in authority, the belief in unconditional love. Become an individual, cut the umbilical plug. Just a bunch of mind tricks told to sit in silence, to stop this violence. Don't fight it, just remember to surrender. Thought I had it figured out till I seen the truth and was filled with doubt. Hard to tell what's genuine, what's compassion with these spells of rhetoric. Expel this magic, raised to be passive, kept me afraid to take action. Imbalanced, enslaved, kept me in chains. Taught to never fight back, distractions keeps me sidetracked, keeps my mind trapped. The truth is immutable, indisputable. I pour my heart out, even though it's uncomfortable. The time to take charge and start the spark is right now. Guided in the dark with the stars out.
Caught inside a web of lies, I'll break free, this won't be my demise. Letting go of what I think I know. Gotta make some room for truth to grow. Caught inside a web of lies, I'll break free, this won't be my demise. Letting go of what I think I know. Gotta make some room for truth to grow. 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 Gotta make some room.